Welcome back to the Dinar Chronicle, your trusted source for breaking global currency developments, revaluation insights, and verified financial intel. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe for real-time updates on what could be the most significant economic shift of our lifetime. Today's report is urgent and requires your full attention. What we're seeing right now is what many have been waiting years, even decades, for. Reports are emerging that the Iraqi dinar has officially breached the $1 mark against the US dollar. That's right, after months of speculation, quiet central bank movements, and coded signals from financial institutions, the IQD has crossed the psychological and economic threshold. But it doesn't end there. All eyes are now turning to the Vietnamese dong, with rising chatter that it could be the next in line. This is a double RV shocker that has left analysts, forex traders, and global currency observers stunned. Let's get into the facts. In the early hours of the morning, several redemption centers across the U.S. began reporting rate updates that suggested a shift in how the IQD was being handled internally. These updates, while not yet reflected on retail forex charts like XE or OANDA, are being validated through cross-bank communication systems and Tier 1 banking confirmations. According to sources close to regional banking networks, the Central Bank of Iraq has updated internal ledger systems to support a parity rate of $1 to 1.00 IQD. This means that institutions dealing directly in IQD, particularly those involved in high-volume currency redemption, are now functioning under a completely different value model. While this development has not yet been acknowledged officially by the IMF or the BIS, multiple indicators suggest we're witnessing a soft rollout of the revaluation process. Remember, historically, major currency adjustments often happen quietly before being formally disclosed. It minimizes market shock, prevents speculative trading surges, and gives central banks time to recalibrate liquidity channels. Let's talk numbers. Before this reported adjustment, the IQD was trading publicly at roughly 1,300 dinars to the dollar. A move to $1 or even close to parity would represent an appreciation of over 1,200%. For those who have held on to dinar since the post-2003 devaluation, this would be the single most significant gain on any fiat currency in the 21st century. And that gain is not hypothetical anymore. It's being realized at select exchange facilities under controlled conditions. Now, what makes this development even more noteworthy is the timing. Just 72 hours ago, the Iraqi parliament passed a finalized budget that included oil sale revenue projections based on a much higher valuation of the dinar, signaling they've been preparing for this moment internally. Additionally, whispers from within the World Bank and SWIFT monitoring channels suggest coordinated movement among allied Middle Eastern banks, pointing to a broader liquidity balancing strategy. The aim appears to be moving from a petrodollar model to a more balanced regional asset-backed system, with Iraq playing a central role. What we're hearing from the ground is that this may only be Phase 1. Phase 2, the Vietnamese dong. While the dong has traditionally traded at around 23,000 VND to the USD, recent developments in Vietnam's trade surplus, gold accumulation, and quiet talks with BRICS-aligned nations have fueled speculation that they too are preparing for a substantial revaluation. In fact, during the last financial quarter, Vietnam repatriated over $3 billion in foreign cash reserves and increased its gold backing through the State Bank of Vietnam. This move may appear subtle, but to those familiar with historical revaluation mechanics, this is a telltale sign of a country preparing to support its currency at a higher value. Vietnam's economic indicators support this potential. With consistent GDP growth above 6%, a strong manufacturing base, and a strategic position in the ASEAN economic network, a revaluation would serve their interests well, especially in moving toward internationalization of their currency. Combine that with pressure from BRICS to shift away from Western-controlled monetary systems, and you have a perfect storm for a VND value reset. Banking insiders from both Singapore and Hong Kong have reported unusual demand for dong in recent weeks, and certain high-net-worth investment firms are said to be shifting portfolio positions to prepare for movement in that market. Let's pivot back to the IQD for a moment. We are seeing significant institutional reaction. As of this morning, multiple U.S. banks have reportedly halted personal currency exchanges involving IQD pending further instructions. This is a classic move seen during transitionary monetary events, where banks freeze front-end processing while back-end systems undergo real-time recalibration. Moreover, Tier 1 banks are said to be running parallel rate systems, one for public-facing interfaces and another for internal institutional clients. This is consistent with past activity observed during other historical currency resets. What this means is that the average currency holder may not see the new rate reflected immediately online or at their local branch. However, those participating through vetted redemption processes, especially those associated with pre-authorized exchange groups, are reportedly already processing at or near the $1 rate. These groups, often operating under NDAs, have long been speculated as the first beneficiaries of any official revaluation. It is also important to highlight recent developments from the Treasury Department. Quiet amendments were made to Form 8938 filing requirements related to foreign financial assets. While seemingly unrelated, analysts believe this is tied directly to anticipation of capital inflows stemming from a dinar-based currency event. The logic here is straightforward. A flood of new liquidity from IQD holders could trigger reporting requirements at an unprecedented scale, and the IRS wants to ensure mechanisms are in place to capture all taxable events. These kinds of back-end administrative changes don't just happen, they're timed. In the global financial space, the forex market has yet to respond to this intel. But don't let that fool you. Central banks and forex algorithms are often behind the real curve during massive revaluations because changes like these are usually introduced behind closed doors. That said, some anomalies are already surfacing. Forex liquidity providers in the Middle East and Southeast Asia have reported dramatic rate variance, indicating internal adjustments ahead of official confirmation. In plain terms, something big is happening, and it's happening now. As for the Vietnamese dong, we anticipate potential movement within the next 14 to 30 days based on gold settlement data, sovereign bond activity, and interbank communication anomalies picked up on the SWIFT grid. While these signals are not definitive, they're flashing red and aligning with historical precursors to a revaluation. Combined with the Iraqi dinar's sudden shift, many believe the dong will follow suit sooner rather than later. Market sentiment is also evolving. Dinar-focused forums, currency trading Reddit threads, and Telegram intel groups have all exploded in the past 24 hours. Social sentiment indicators point to a sharp increase in bullish expectations, not just from retail holders, but also from macroeconomic analysts who had previously dismissed revaluation theories as fringe speculation. Even mainstream financial outlets,